Hello and welcome to Fiction Fans, a podcast where we read books and other words too. I'm Lily.
And I'm Sarah, and tonight we will be discussing St. Death's Herald by C.S.E. Cooney.
But before we begin, let's start with something good that happened recently. Sarah, what have you got for me?
I actually have multiple good things.
Ooh.
For once. So the first good thing is that a couple of weeks ago, I hard pruned some of my geraniums in pots, which I know geraniums can take. They're really hardy, but it's been really warm and these geraniums were looking like very, very, very dead. They looked brown and just plain dead, but they weren't dead because they now have little green leaves on them. So I'm very pleased that I did not actually kill my geraniums.
Good.
So that's my first good thing. And my second good thing is that today my stepfather changed the light fixture in my bathroom so that it is not motion activated,
Ooh.
which means when I am in the shower, it will not turn off. This is something that I have been complaining about for the 6 years I've been in this house. And it took like all of an hour to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it was an hour to do both the bathroom and the half bath, but I'm really pleased by this change.
You can shower in the light now.
I can. Like, my bathroom gets really dark when that light, like, yes, there's the light, the fan light, but the main light goes out and it's really dark in the shower.
I can one-up you with that. When the power goes out, our bathroom that has the good shower does not have any windows. And so you do have to, in fact, shower by candlelight.
Yes, you can one-up me.
That is exceptional circumstances, though. You had to deal with it every day.
Yes.
My good thing is also gardening related, although you had two good things. I'll allow it this once.
Well, it's because if I don't use them now, I'm going to forget them for the next time we record.
Yeah. My loofahs sprouted.
Ooh.
I have the worst luck with squash. I don't know what it is. Everyone says that if you plant a zucchini, never plant more than one zucchini because you'll get too many. Last year I had 3 zucchini plants and got 2. So
wow.
Yeah, just no, I don't know.
That is, yeah. I wonder what it is about where you are.
It's not even that though, because my neighbors say, "Oh, I have so many." Fuck you.
Okay, so I wonder what it is about where you're planting them specifically.
Right? Anyway, my zucchini plant this year also abysmal. I don't know if it's going to make it. It has not grown a single new leaf since I transplanted. Anyway, but I sprouted some loofahs from seed and they are looking so big and happy. I mean, they're not big yet, but they have big leaves that are coming off the little baby plant and I'm so excited.
That is really exciting. I will hold all of my gardening questions for when we are not recording because listeners don't need to hear that conversation. This is not actually a gardening podcast, but I want to talk gardening with you.
We should. Although gardening conversations are way more interesting with pictures, so.
They are.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you drinking tonight?
I debated what I was going to drink for this book. And I ultimately settled on champagne because it's fizzy and this feels like a fizzy book.
I love that. I think that's great. Yeah, that sounds perfect. I went entirely off theme. I didn't even try. I'm drinking a hard tea.
They drink tea in the book. It counts.
Okay.
It's on theme.
That's true. They do drink tea. I don't think they drink gas station tea in a can.
Maybe not necessarily, but I mean, I'm sure that they're in very weird places and get their tea from weird places.
Lainey would, I think, if the opportunity arose.
Absolutely would.
Yeah. I mean, it was just that kind of day to day. I don't know.
Yep. I get it.
What have you read recently that is not podcast related?
So today is the 25th of May, which means that it's time for my annual Night Watch reread. So that's what I've been doing today. Reading Night Watch.
You are exposing how late we are recording.
Okay. Yes, I am. You can pretend that I am reading Night Watch by Terry Pratchett in advance of the 25th of May.
No, that's all right.
It's not actually the 25th of May yet.
You do that reread every year How long have
I've
you
done
been
it.
doing that now?
I've done it every year since he died.
How long has that been? Like,
That
roughly? We
was
talking
um
10-ish? 5-ish?
10 years. I believe
10-ish?
he died in
Okay.
2015.
Oh, I do think I saw something about the 10-year. Anyway, that book does grow, especially because of the sort of like, I mean, it's a time travel book, right? So when you read it more than once, you're definitely going to get something new out of it. But now that you are coming on to at least 10 rereads, do you think you're still picking up new stuff, or is it sort of becoming familiar and you're just retreading known ground?
I mean, I feel like at this point, I'm not necessarily picking up new things. I know the last time we read it for the podcast, I did because we had been doing so much Discworld reading. Like there were references to other Vimes stories that I didn't, and other Discworld stories that I didn't necessarily pick up on the first couple of times I read it. Like there's a reference, a really quick reference to Monstrous Regiment,
Mm.
where Vimes notices it, like, or he has a conversation about a article in the newspaper about Moldovia and Borogravia,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a reference to the conflict that's going on in Monstrous Regiment. So there are still things to pick up, but at this point, I mostly just read it because I enjoy it. Like it's my favorite Discworld novel.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Um,
that was not to say
and
why are you still rereading it.
yeah, no. I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't think that was, but also I do, for whatever reason, I do tell myself that I have to finish it in the day. Like I start it on the 25th and finish it on the 25th. So I'm not necessarily doing a deep read.
Well, I can hear it. I don't know if listeners will be able to, but I do want to give the quick disclaimer that I am recording in my garage today. There was a series of unfortunate events that have led to an internet collapse in my general vicinity, but I found a place that's working, so
To be fair, I couldn't hear it.
there's gonna be more bustling bumps and noises from outside than usual.
Potentially, but again, if you say that an airplane just went by, I couldn't hear it.
That wasn't an airplane, that was just the street.
Oh, well, I still couldn't hear it.
Yeah. And I might be able to cut around it. I'm not promising that. I just wanted to give everyone a warning.
We'll bumble along.
Anyway, I've been reading our Solsticia submissions, which we're pretty behind on. We've usually sent out acceptances by this time, but we still have a whole month before it comes out, so we got time.
We're gonna get it out on time.
Yes.
We will.
I found what is probably my favorite. It sounds like you've also stumbled upon it now, so I can actually tell you about it and not, like, affect your opinion.
Yes, and I would agree. It has been the favorite story that I've read to date. I hope that the author allows us to publish it.
Anyway, I won't say any more because we will do a wrap-up episode on Solsticia for our patrons, but tune in to hear more about this story that I'm going to bend the rules for.
Only marginally.
Only marginally. All right, anyway. Speaking of bending the rules, kind of, I guess Lainey doesn't bend the rules of life and death. The goddess of death just likes her better than everyone else.
I mean, she's a necromancer with a close personal relationship to her god. So she can do cool stuff that non-necromancers can't, and cool stuff that the other necromancer in this book has not figured out how to do.
And that other necromancer has been undead for generations honing his craft. Like, we are to understand was also one of the best necromancers.
He was, but so we're talking specifically about Lainey's grandfather, Radiant Stone's Grandpa Rad. And he was a very good necromancer, but as we see when we get his perspectives in the book, he's kind of a dick who thinks there's only one way to do things and doesn't bother trying to figure out other ways. So he was talented, yes, powerful, yes, but much more restricted than Lainey.
Yes. Before we get too far into that conversation, though, this is the sequel to Saint Death's Daughter, which we read a year ago? 2 years ago?
It was more like 2 years ago, I think. We read Saint Death's Daughter. Let me see if I can find it in our calendar. We read it in 2022.
3 years ago. Okay.
Which explains why it was so hard for me to remember the events of Saint Death's Daughter.
Well, I remembered the plot pretty well. I could tell you, like, Lainey started as a pretty isolated, sad young woman, part of a family that is on the decline overall, like a great noble house that has fallen, and everyone is very mean to her and doesn't understand her. And then we get some necromancy. Her sister shows up with the husband that she sexually assaulted and like coerced into marrying her with magical mind control or something, right? Something like that.
Something like that.
And then also Lainey's lover turns out to be the secret, like, royal person.
The Blood Royal.
The Blood Royal. That's how you get around gendering that title. That was a big twist at the end. We thought they were just a priest, turns out. That was their secret identity, to go undercover. And then the Blackbird Bride, who was the, like, partner, the other royal, she pulls some shady shit, and then there's a big skeleton fight, and then Lainey gets banished. There you go. That's the first book. I remember it.
You remember it so much better than I do. Basically, what I remembered, Lainey is great. I love her.
Little mice, her little mice skeletons.
She is a necromancer, and I've really enjoyed the book. But could I tell you what the plot of it was? Not really. At this point.
Also, Grandpa Rad is the only person who can teach her necromancy. She's the only living necromancer that anyone knows about. Necromancy has sort of declined over the years. And Grandpa Rad is teaching her. He is also the worst because everyone in her family is an abusive asshole. He is...
Except for her niece.
Oh, well, of course. She's kind of an asshole, but like...
She's kind of an asshole, but...
Not an abusive one.
It's learned behavior.
And she's like 4 or something at the beginning.
Yeah, she's quite young.
So Grandpa Rad is stuck in this sarcophagus, and then he breaks out, and then a bunch of spirits that apparently he had been guarding in the sarcophagus escape. And hijinks are implied to ensue. And that is sort of where we pick up in this second book, is Lainey is chasing down her grandfather and the big cyclone of spirits. This book expected me to remember minutia, like, oh yeah, when Duantry fought Cratchin. And I was like, I remember who Duantry is. She's the cool lady who can turn into a falcon, which is neat. I do not remember every fight she got into in the last book.
Again, you still remembered more than I did.
And so there were definitely some moments that I had to, like, reread a couple of times before it jogged my memory. But overall, I think I caught on pretty well to what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, for all that I didn't actually remember the events of book 1, and if we had had the time, I would have loved to reread book 1 because I remember really, really enjoying it.
Same, yeah.
For all that I didn't remember, like, what had happened, I felt like it was easy to jump back in. I would have appreciated the story so far, kind of page and a half, bringing me up to speed, but
yeah,
the text gives you enough clues that, like, you're not lost.
That being said, I was pretty lost in the first chapter because it starts you with Grandpa Rad. And I was like, what the fuck? What is going on? Who is this awful person and why am I reading about him? Because also, we don't get his name right away because he has possessed, who is a triplet. It doesn't matter that much for the sake of this introduction.
He was apparently a bad guy in the first book, kind of.
I remember the 3 brothers because they kept visiting the Stones Manor and not tormenting Lainey exactly, but not tormenting her.
I didn't remember them at all.
There was a brief, like, Lainey, you ought to marry one of them to save the Stones family. Because, like, they lose the house because they're in debt, and then they aren't able to pay their debts back. And so, like, the entire, like, every worldly possession is retaken.
I mean, I got that from this book.
Yeah. It catches you up. It's fine.
It does.
Starting with Grandpa Rad, though, was rough. He is the worst.
Yeah, he's absolutely terrible, and his point of view is consequently terrible.
Absolutely
Yeah, infuriating.
infuriating. And I mean, that's very well done. I'm supposed to hate him, but I still did hate all of those parts. So good job, I guess.
I enjoyed them in the sense that I was having a great time with the book, and his parts didn't feel extraneous or out of place. Like they added to the story and to my enjoyment of the story, but I mean I did hate him.
Generally, yes, but I still like I had to restart this book twice. Like I couldn't get through his chapter. Just as far as like pushing me back into this world, especially with all of the memories I have of the first book and like how wonderful Lainey is and how sweet her necromancy is, and like that is just not the vibe you get from the first chapter because it's Grandpa Rad.
It's not. I didn't have that particular problem, but I can see why you would.
Would you remind me? Well, you don't remember. The first book didn't have multiple points of view, right? It all followed Lainey very closely.
I mean, I could go and get my copy of the first book, but I cannot tell you off the top of my
And
head.
read the whole thing right now? No. Does it have a wiki? Absolutely no idea. Okay. I don't remember there being multiple perspectives. And like not perspectives, it's third person, but it's such close third person. And this book does jump around to a couple of different characters in that sense.
Yeah. I think, you know what it is? I think that what got me through Grandpa Rad's first chapter and how terrible he is just how much I like Cooney's prose and like how much fun she has with the language in it. And that is still true with Rad's dialogue and with the narration. And so that for me was so much fun that I was like, okay, I don't mind that I hate this character. I'm supposed to hate him, but I'm still having a good time.
Okay, that's fair. And I did have that experience, I would say, through all the other parts with him, but it was just that as an intro, it was rough. Now, narratively, that was excellent because by chapter 2, we have already been introduced to the two very different types of necromancy that these characters are doing. Grandpa Rad's is exploitative and like burns up resources basically, and those resources being people and himself. Whereas Lainey's is so warm and encouraging and collaborative with the spirits she works with. And I do like that right away we get this dynamic, which, I mean, the first book took the whole book to introduce because she's sort of discovering this sweeter method of necromancy because they're both stones. Irradiant stones had been her teacher.
Yeah, I do think it provides a really excellent contrast between the two right up front. And it sets the stage for their struggle throughout the book.
Mm-hmm. We also get two different versions of the goddess of death. There is Doadena, who is part of the pantheon that Lainey worships from her home country. And then there is Era Elur, I think, is the Skaki version of the goddess of death.
I would have said Skaki, but yes.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, that's my personal pronunciation. I have no idea if it's correct.
I don't either.
If we read or listened to the audiobook, I believe Cooney narrates that herself. So the audiobook in this case is the definitive answer.
Oh, that is good to know.
Yeah.
It's too late to look up now.
It is too late to look up now. But I would also argue actually that we get a third version of the goddess of death, which is Doadena as Irradiant Stones sees her.
Yes, but he still refers to that as Doadena, that version.
It is still Doadena, but his Doadena is kind of separate from Lainey's Doadena in some kind of very nebulous way. And it's interesting, again, it's interesting to make the comparison between those two versions because Lainey's is much more welcoming and his version is very toxic.
Well, in some way, that is just a reflection of them, isn't it?
I mean, it absolutely is.
And even then, though, we still get the sense that is the same god, just showing different versions of herself. Whereas with Era Allure, that is kind of a different god. but yet still the same. Because Era Allure is like the god of ice and death. Because the Sérénade people live very far up in the north, and we see the northern lights, and it was very fun, and it made me want to go to Alaska or something.
Yes.
But those two gods have different names, different modes of worship, and yet still are the same. There are times when Lainey says, I was visited by Era Allure, or Era Allure did this, not Doadena. So there's a bigger degree of separation between those two.
Yeah, there's overlap, but they are kind of different.
But they are the same.
But they are the same, yeah.
Delightfully nebulous. Like, this book does not nail it down, but I think in a really wonderful way. Like, it's a little mysterious, but, they're gods. They are going to be a little mysterious. And Doadena at least is fairly consistent, by which I mean, Saint Death being Doadena or Era Allure is pretty consistent. I did like when Doadena helps Rad at one point that I am not going to talk about in too much detail. And Lainey is like, you can't help both of us. And Doadena basically shrugs and says, tough shit, kid. I mean, we don't get to see that on the page, but you get the sense that that's what she says.
Yes.
Which is so, such a god move. Excellent.
I really like just the whole world that Cooney has built, and all of the religion and the customs and all of it. I just love it. I love this series so much. Duology. I don't think we're getting more.
Wait, no?
I mean, I'd love to be wrong.
It's part 2 of the Saint Death trilogy.
Is it?
Yeah. I thought we knew that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we did know that it was a trilogy, but also I felt like this book wrapped things up so neatly that I didn't think, by the end of it, I didn't think that we were getting a book 3. And I just kind of ignored the fact that, yeah, it's part of a trilogy.
Well, there's more coming.
Delightful. I'm so here for it.
I got distracted because the back of the book does say Skakmat. I would say Skakmat, so it might be Skaky, not Skakey. Because I wouldn't say Skakmat. That's crazy.
I would say Skakmat.
That's not where the H is, though.
But it's not at Skak either. We put the H in the same place.
M-A-T could be Matt. You pronounce that word Matt.
Yeah, okay. Skakmat.
But my point is, an A can make an A sound.
Yeah, yes, it can. I default to the ah. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, if I see a word that I don't know how it's pronounced and it has an A in it, it's going to be an ah. That's just how I default to things.
You don't say Grandpa Rod.
No, because I know that it's from Irradiant.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I just would like to note that is a personal preference, and the word does not support that at all. Although I think Skaky is definitely wrong. I'm going to Skaky now, although I do hate how that sounds.
I guess I was not thinking about the mat part of it. I was thinking about the front part of it.
But when I see Skakmat, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and I see Skakmat.
Yeah, you do. Not just to prove a point.
Okay, I will allow that I don't see the mat part necessarily, but the skok is how skocky is how I would pronounce it.
Yeah.
But that's just a me thing. That's not I don't know how it's actually pronounced.
This conversation is way less interesting because there is a definitive answer, we just don't know it.
Yeah, basically we just need to listen to the audiobook.
Well, I'm still not an audiobook person. I don't know if that'll ever change.
Neither am I, unfortunately.
We love the world that these books have built. I also really love Lainey.
Lainey's great.
Miscellaneous
She's so much fun to follow.
Yes, she is so wonderful. And this book really felt like a love letter to her in a way that, because we are getting these other character not perspectives, we're getting the deep thoughts of the other characters around her. We get a lot more of Lainey from an outside perspective than just following her directly. And it's all wonderful. Everyone loves her except for Grandpa Rad, and he's obviously wrong. So
he is so obviously wrong.
He's so dismissive and condescending, and I mean, like, she's the main character, dude.
I mean, he's a
Yeah.
douchebag. But the thing that I love about Lainey is how much she loves,
Mhm.
period. Right? Like, she has such a huge heart, and she loves all of the characters that we meet, basically, especially if they're touched by their god. It doesn't matter if it's a god that she follows. It's just if they have a connection to, like, their patron, she's like, I love you, you're great, let's get married. I mean, not necessarily let's get
No,
married,
but
but
she
like,
does wanna bang them.
she does want to bang them.
That's her thing. Like, "Oh,
And
man,
it's
blessed
so
by the
cute.
gods."
It's so cute.
She's very sweet, and also we get to see, because we're getting other people's sort of opinions on her, they get to be more awed by her power, which I thought was really nice. Just as someone who loves Lady, I was like, yeah, she is great.
Yeah, she takes her power very matter of fact, and like, it's not actually anything special, but it really is special.
I felt like she was my romantic interest while I was reading this book. Not really, but she was wonderful.
It's just, yeah, she's such a warm character to read about, even when she's struggling. She just tries her hardest and is just nice, and I just really appreciate that. This is not a cozy book by any means. It's
No.
not cozy fantasy, but the way that Lainey views the world is very cozy.
I guess. I don't know if I'd use the word cozy. We've said warm like 800 times, but I think that is just like the right description.
I don't know.
Comforting,
I think there's
maybe?
something cozy about her viewpoint.
I agree, except for the genre connotations. Like how I was using romance in Chai and Cattails.
Yes. It's definitely not cozy fantasy. I don't want to say that it is at all. But it's warm and comforting. We can use that as a stand-in for cozy, sure. There is just something warm and comforting about the way that Lainey views the world.
Absolutely. There is also a lot of romance in this book. Not This book is not about romance, but we have several relationships that are delightful and horrifying to various degrees, depending on the relationship. But I think I want to talk about them more in depth in the spoiler section.
I do think that part or most of that conversation is better served in the spoiler section, yes.
I will say, really love Mac.
We don't see a lot of him in this book.
We
I
don't.
wouldn't have minded seeing more of
Oh
him.
man, the first time he was back on the page, I was just like, oh fuck, I forgot how hot you are. And then he and Lainey are so sweet and intimate, except there's like no romance between them at all. They're like, he's her brother-in-law, except her sister, assaulted him. Whatever. It's fine. They're past it.
But it is, we see a little bit from his point of view, and it is really illuminating to see how his perspective has shifted from the first book to this one. Not that I remember the events in the first book that well, and I don't know if we saw his perspective in the first book, or I can't remember if we saw his perspective in the first book, but he reflects on those events, and like, he talks in his perspective about how he didn't respect her at first, and then he's come to see that he is better for knowing her and his daughter is better for knowing her, and it's just so sweet and loving
Yeah.
and caring.
The two of them raising Datura Stones together, his daughter, Blaney's niece, is so sweet. Like peak family warm and fuzzies.
Yes.
Which again, we don't get a lot of in this book because Lady is off adventuring in Skakmet, I think is actually the name of the place. Skaki is like the adjective.
Yes, I think so.
A lot of fun spoiler things to talk about. How did we do having read this book 3 years after we read the first book? I think we did okay.
Yeah, I mean, I still really loved this book, even though I remembered very little about the first one. So yeah.
And it felt like an A+ follow-up. It delivered on
Absolutely.
everything that the first book promised. So if you liked the first one, absolutely keep reading.
Yes, if you enjoyed the first book, you are going to enjoy the second book too, I think.
We've spoiled a lot for the first book, so I hope you have read it or don't care about spoilers at this point.
I mean, if you care about spoilers for book 1, why are you listening to a podcast episode on book 2?
Yeah. So go back and read book 1 if you haven't, and then read this book, especially if you like weird fantasy. I would say that this is playing with the necromancy trope, right? It's taking the idea that it's spooky, creepy, dark death magic and saying, but what if it was nice?
Absolutely, it plays with the necromancy trope.
Yeah.
This is necromancy as I view it, like death and bones as I view it. The warm and fuzzies.
Yeah.
Like just neat. So if you like bones, if you think bones are cool, if you want a book series that just delights in language, and if you want something that will give you the warm and fuzzies, like, you should read the series.
Absolutely. Also some really great action adventure mode. There's some good fight scenes, some badass magic fight scenes, and some really heartbreaking moments.
Yeah, it does it all. This episode of Fiction Fans is brought to you by Fiction Fans.
That's us. We really appreciate our patrons because otherwise we fund this podcast entirely ourselves.
Patrons can find weekly bonus content, monthly exclusive episodes, and have free access to our biannual zine, Solsticia.
You can find all of that and more at patreon.com/fictionfanspod. Thank you for all of your support.
The remainder of this episode contains spoilers.
So, as much as I loved this book, we did just spend half an hour talking about how much we love this book. The midpoint event, the trial by combat with the skin changers, did not work for me at all.
I didn't have quite as much of an issue with it. I still had a couple of problems, but for the most part, I enjoyed that confrontation.
There were a couple of things that peeved me, and I definitely spent that entire sequence thinking about those and concentrating on if that was being consistent or not. And yeah, I got like nothing else out of it. Except for the big crab dude. I liked the crab dude.
Oh, the crab dude was fantastic.
Started with an R. I do not remember anything else.
Oh, I thought it started with a K.
Did it start with a K? All right. It started with a letter that's vaguely that shape and might have had a top or not.
Yes. Basically, he was a skin changer who was a real big crab. And he was great. He was like the priest.
He was the priest of the god of mischief, I think, or the trickster god, because the skin changers worship 3 out of the pantheon of 12 that Lainey worships.
It did start with a K. Karamora.
Karamora. Okay, there are R's though.
There are R's in it.
I basically identify words in fantasy books to this extent. The first letter is a lot, which completely off topic, but when Haken and Kraken are talking to each other and Kraken has already absorbed all of the Skaki ancestors into him, and they go back and forth, or Haken goes back and forth, either calling him my ancestor or my brother, but he uses the Skaki word for it, words. And conveniently, the Skaki word for brother also starts with a B, and the Skaki word for ancestor also starts with an A, so I had no trouble following.
I didn't actually make the starts with a B comparison necessarily, but I was like, oh, broha, that sounds like brother.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell what it is.
Yeah. No, I very much appreciated that because I made it very easy to follow.
It did make it easy to follow, yes. But so my problem with this scene was, well, essentially Lainey goes to the skin changers and is like, Grandpa Rad is coming for you guys. If he can possess skin changers, if he possesses an old skin changer, he's going to do a lot of damage. And the queen of the skin changers, Tam, is like, well, he helped us a lot in previous times, so I'm not sure if I believe you. Only it turns out they've already captured Grandpa Rad and do believe Lainey, but we don't know that until much later. And so I spent a lot of the time going, well, why are you
Yeah. The scene,
why are you behaving this way?
the scene where they're like, it's impossible to know which one of you to believe, so you must have a trial by combat. And it's like, okay. So they just whip out Grandpa Rad, who has possessed a skin changer. And they're like, we have no way of knowing what his motives are in this land. And it's like, he's right there.
Who has possessed a skin changer, and also they had imprisoned him. Like, they weren't just letting him walk around, do stuff, kind of the way I thought they would if they, didn't believe that he was doing bad things.
And the way I eventually have sussed this out is that maybe they were kind of not playing both sides, but playing it close to the chest with Grandpa Rad because they knew that they wouldn't be able to stop him in outright aggression. And so they're like, yeah, sure, we totally believe you. You can stay here. Go sit in that room.
I mean, so my understanding of it was that they didn't believe Grandpa Rad at all, but they knew that they couldn't stop him.
Exactly.
And so so they do.
So they don't tell him that.
But they kind of do. I mean, they trap him in that room. He is trapped in that room. We see from his perspective, and he's like, I can't, there's nothing that I can access from here.
But it's still with the veneer of politeness. They're all pretending to be. It's all political bullshit.
I would disagree there. I think the only veneer of politeness and political bullshit is what Lainey sees.
Well, then,
I don't think that Grandpa Rad
sees
any of that.
I hope that's not the case, because I would really hate that.
But either way, I do think that they recognize that they need Lainey to deal with him. It just kind of happens in a convoluted way. And I'm like, surely there was something better you could have done.
Yeah.
Guys.
It's also when they have them start this trial by combat, where it's trial by combat, but it's really a trial of which one of them does their god favor more. And they have this complex blood ritual where the god of fairness or whatever is going to adjudicate and make sure that everyone follows the rules. Good, great. The rules were such a load of bullshit. I thought the loophole was going to be, I don't remember the exact verbiage off the top of my head, but it's they're not supposed to exit the fighting ring until the end of the trial, right? It does not say you are not allowed to exit the ring. It says you will not exit the ring or else this will happen. So I thought there was going to be some rules lawyering of, technically you didn't say I couldn't. You just said that I wouldn't, and that clearly was wrong. And then also, of course, it was a blood oath. Grandpa Rad had possessed a skin changer, so it wasn't his blood. So it didn't mean anything. And that was so obvious to me. How did Lainey not notice? And if she did, why didn't she say anything?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't necessarily have that hang up with it. Just because by that point I was into the whole scene. So I was like, okay, sure. But Lainey also, for all that she knows a lot, she's still learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would absolutely believe that she doesn't recognize something until after it happens. And then she's like, oh yeah, in retrospect, real obvious.
Maybe. The other thing that really bothered me is that it's introduced as there will be one trial, and if the outcome is unclear, then there will be a second trial. They just declare Grandpa Rad the winner of the first trial, and then they're like, okay, time for the second one.
No, they declare Lainey the winner of the first trial.
No.
Yes. Lainey wins that first trial.
Hold on, where's the page? I didn't write down the page number.
Grandpa Rad wins the second one because he possesses the adjudicator.
To say that it's himself, yeah.
And says that it's himself, yeah.
Which, that was fun hijinks that I didn't have a problem with.
That was great hijinks.
194.
Yeah, see, on page 203, the game of changes is done. I declare the winner miscellaneous immiscible stones.
Okay.
She changes into a three-headed coyote, and he's basically a fantasy kangaroo. And her coyote beats up the kangaroo.
Regardless, there's not supposed to be a second trial if you know who the winner is from the first trial.
I did, yes. I was not actually expecting there to be a second trial.
Well, of course there was going to be a second trial, but why would you make that up if you're going to completely ignore it? Just say there's going to be 2. Like, why even have that in there? And I also, like, they spent so long. You keep calling this a scene. This was not a scene. This was like 5 fucking chapters of this trial.
It's not a scene. It is a, like, the midpoint.
And 1 whole chapter is spent establishing the rules that mean nothing.
I don't think they mean quite nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Every single one of them is broken on purpose by either the Skin Changers or Grandpa Rad.
I want to... Yeah, so, okay, I'm looking at the page, and it does say they compete in 2 games, but in the specifics, it says they compete in the second games should the outcome of the game of changes prove unclear.
Yeah, and it wasn't. She was the winner. They should have at least said a tie if they wanted to go to the second game.
They should have.
Or not have that in there at all. They made up the rules. If they wanted it to be a fight to the death, just make it a fight to the death. Because clearly they just wanted Lainey to kill Grandpa Rad. Like, eventually that becomes obvious. Everything they have said is a lie for whatever reason. They're doing a weird roundabout way. So then just do that. Like, what is the benefit of, like, setting up this weird system that no one is going to follow? Except for Lainey, to her detriment.
Lainey, yes. Poor Lainey. She tries to follow the rules.
Even the people running the thing aren't following them.
I think the thing that I was sad about most about this, you're right, it's not a scene. This portion of the book.
Huge sequence of events that amounts to nothing.
This sequence of events, I wouldn't say it amounts to nothing.
All it does is raise the stakes. Like, nothing actually happens. It just goes, it makes you go at the end, wow, I hate Grandpa Rad even more. And Lainey is even more sad and upset now.
It does raise the stakes, but we get Karamora, who's great, he's worth it just for that. But there's a time jump after the end of this sequence where Lainey and Duantry are just, like, suddenly on a floating boat or a flying boat with Kraken, and we hear about the end results of, like, after. So Tam turns into a dragon and fights Grandpa Rad, but Grandpa Rad takes over her,
being the queen of the Skin Changers, although they don't really call her that. That's effectively her title. Yeah.
Yes, I mean people call her the Witch Queen or whatever, but the Skin Changers don't necessarily call her that. So she joins the fight against Grandpa Rad. He eventually takes her over, and he steals her egg, which is very important. Like, she's trying to birth a new Skin Changer.
It's a Skin Changer thing where it's lots of magic.
Yeah, basically. And he wants to use it to power a flying house. But then we just suddenly jump to Lainey and Duantry and Kraken chasing him in Skokie, or in Skakmat. Matt.
I actually think it should be pronounced Matt. That was just my point, that it should be Skakmat.
And I kind of wanted to see more of, like, how Lainey and the Skin Changers deal with the fact that the Skin Changer Queen is dead. All of her, like, high priests and the other most powerful Skin Changers are severely wounded.
Most of them died. Lainey brought most of them back.
Yes. Like, what are they going to do now? Their society has been upended. And we just kind of gloss over that. And I would have liked to see a little bit more.
Further trivializing the whole thing. I really love this book. Nothing about the Skin Changer trial worked for me in any way.
I really loved this book. I did still enjoy the Skin Changer trial, but I agree with some of your complaints about it.
Yeah. I mean, there was, like, a lot of cool world building stuff. The Skin Changers themselves are really interesting. They're different enough from humans, and, like, learning about that and the different, like, ways they've sort of clashed culturally was really interesting. But that was all the intro. And then everything that actually happened just mm-mm.
It did feel a little useless.
Mm-hmm. Almost as useless as Cratchit was during that whole time period. But that's because he's an enemy of the state, because he is a amalgamation of Cratchit himself and a bunch of skaky ice wizards who are war criminals for stealing all of the skin changer babies to use as batteries. Generally frowned upon.
Much like what Grandpa Rad is trying to do.
Exactly, yeah, he's trying to do the same thing.
The ice wizards did that, and Grandpa Rad fought them the first time around, and now he has become them.
I can hear a car alarm or something.
You can hear birds.
Birds.
All of my doors are closed.
All right.
You can hear birds.
Some loud ass birds.
I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry.
No, that's delightful.
Yeah. Those are birds.
Knowing it's birds does make it better though. Like, because then it's just like, oh, birds. Even if it does not sound any better through the headphones. Anyway, back to Grandpa Rad. It becomes obvious that Irradiant Stones did not fight the Ice Wizards in order to help the Skin Changers in any way. He was
absolutely not.
Personal gain, and just said that he was helping them because why not? Didn't hurt. Because yeah, he just immediately does exactly what they were doing because all he cares about is himself.
Yes.
But Cratchit, I loved that character. The vibes were terrible. It was amazing.
He was so bad. I mean, you call him in our notes, you call him trash villain-esque, and I would 100% agree.
He's not a villain, but like that kind of, it's the bad boy energy.
He's not a villain, he's a trash villain. Like, in the first book, he was definitely an antagonist. Yes. I don't remember the first book, but I got that from, the context that we get in this one. And he doesn't necessarily want to work with Lainey. It's just the ice wizards in him are like really enamored of her power.
I thought it was implied that Cratchit also liked her. No? We think it was only the influence of the ice wizards?
To me, it was implied that it was the ice wizards, like 99%.
Okay.
But because before he takes the ice wizards in, he's not even willing to like let her heal him. He is going to be so stubborn when she tries to bring him back from the death that he will not allow it because it's a stone's doing it.
Well, okay, yeah. But then he gets to know her and falls in love with her just like Mock.
I'm pretty sure that's like 99% the ice wizards.
That's interesting because in the sections that follow him more closely, the book did definitely like specify like the ice wizards don't subsume him the way Irradiant Stones was doing. Like they exist in harmony with him, or if not harmony, but like, collusion.
But it also makes the point that he is very much, even though he's not subsumed and still kind of is an individual, he's an amalgamation while they're in him. Like the narration makes a point of saying that was the last time Lainey spoke with Cratchit, whatever his last, Strathmandan.
Yes. But when we get his internal moments, the narration differentiates between him and the ice wizards. Are we supposed to believe that the narration also can't tell the difference? Because that's a stretch, I think.
No, I don't think so. But I do think that he is being influenced by them and doesn't necessarily realize. Like at the very end, when the ice wizards have been taken out of him again, and he's just refusing to talk to Lainey.
Yeah, because he wanted to keep them, and she took them away against his wishes. He's mad at her.
Yeah, sure, but like, I don't know, if it feels okay. I was going to make the argument that it feels like if he liked her that much, he shouldn't be that mad at her, but that's a terrible argument.
Yeah.
He has the right to be that mad at her. She did the right thing.
Yeah.
But I can understand his being mad.
I don't think he would be as creepy obsessed with her if it weren't for the ice wizards. But I think he like grew to appreciate her as a person because the ice wizards influenced him to give her a chance.
I still think that it was mostly the Ice Wizards, but maybe not entirely the Ice
How
Wizards.
dare you imply that anyone could hang out with Lainey and not fall in love with her?
That's true.
That's
You're
really
right.
the best
You're
argument.
right. You're right. I take it all back. You with that argument, you have convinced me.
She's wonderful and everyone knows it.
It's true. You're so right. I can't even argue.
No. Anyway, all of that to say, Cratchen's like, yeah, not obsession, but kind of a little bit of, I don't know, it's a very, like, that's a very dark romance plotline.
He's creepily obsessed with her. It is a dark romance plotline. I was kind of here for it. I mean, he's definitely a trash villain. He is one of the redeemed trash villains. Like, that's his flavor of trash villain.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of trash villain who has to work with the heroine.
Yes. And I love how everyone was creeped out by it, except for Lainey, who was like, I can use this to my advantage.
He's just so great. I love her so much.
Oh, incredible. I loved all of that. And especially Mock, who got all protective over her. I'm usually not into protectiveness, but he is so, like, it's so, like...
He's sweet about it. He's not overbearing.
No, and it's not, I don't think Lainey can protect herself. It's, I think you're gross.
Yes.
Which is important, right? When the protectiveness is, this person is too weak to protect themselves, so I must do it, that's gross. But when it's, no, I just really don't like you.
Yeah, it's absolutely not Lainey can't handle this.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I just think you're gross. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make that very clear.
And yeah, and also doesn't actually interfere. He just does that.
Yeah.
He does that thing where he's like very loudly says, or not loudly, but, you know, metaphorically said, and he's so obviously looking at you all the time. And she's like, he can hear you. And he says, good. Then Hobo, everything. I loved both of those characters for such different reasons. And having that little interaction was like, oh.
Yes, agreed, 100%. Just all of the relationships in this book are so excellent. Like, I love the relationship that Mac has with Triantanelin, who, like, the three of them kind of have a romantic triad. The relationship between Rad and Sosha, who was the previous Blood Royal.
Not just I mean, 2 generations at least, right? It's like a great-great-grandfather or something.
I will follow your lead in this.
I'm pretty sure it's been a while.
Yeah, actually, because Grandpa Rad has been dead for a while. Yeah. So yes, I think you were correct. And Lainey and her longing for Håkon, who is Kraken's, like, older brother. Well, they're triplets. I don't know who is older or not, but silent and studious brother.
Yes. And even her, like, kind of weirdness with reaching out to her ex, because she needs their help getting Håkon to her, because she needs Håkon's help with the Skegi. Even just that, like, I wouldn't call it longing, but so there's a little bit of longing. They were still into each other, but Lainey got banished, and so...
There's definitely longing there. Lainey's just also really mad at them.
Well, I think Lynn is the one who banished her. Lear.
Yeah.
Is the one who banished her.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They did banish her.
It was like,
and it was like mad about it.
That or a death sentence, I believe. So, like, I get it. But also...
Lear did the best they could.
Yeah.
But also Lainey's still mad about it, which is understandable.
Yeah. But all of it is so good. Oh my gosh. If Cratchen itched the trash villain itch for me, Irradiant Stones and Sosha Brackenwild itched the toxic relationship needs in me. They were so awful, just always egging each other on. I mean, they're super villains. They're not super villains, you know. They're just horrible king and lover, because they weren't married. They each had wives.
I'm not sure. The book leaves it kind of nebulous whether or not they actually ever had a physical romantic relationship. I would argue they definitely had an emotional romantic relationship.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't go out and say, like, and then I sucked his penis. But
it doesn't. No, I mean, it doesn't make it explicit. You can read into it what you want. I agree, they probably were, but it doesn't, say for sure.
I get, like, we don't see them kiss on the page, but, like, they shared a bed.
Did they share a bed?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember them sharing a bed.
I'm pretty sure that was their tent. We have, like, a dream that Irradiant Stones has, Grandpa Rad has.
I thought that was Sosha's tent.
Maybe. I did not think that was tentative at all. I thought it was clear that because it even says, like, neither of them got jealous that the other one had a wife. Like, they were definitely in a relationship.
Right. I'm just saying it wasn't necessarily a physical one.
Okay.
I think we're just coming to relationships from a different place.
Sure. Do you agree that it was a romantic one, though?
Yes.
Okay.
They absolutely had a romantic relationship. I just don't necessarily know if it was a physical romantic relationship.
Okay, sure.
But, like, yes, they were in some kind of romantic relationship.
I don't think they were just roommates.
They were
just really good friends.
They were not just roommates.
Yeah, okay. How much kissing happened, you're correct, is not explicitly told to us on the page. That seems like not the point, though.
But they did have a relationship, yes. Yeah. We agree on that point. So we have not talked about Stripes, but I just want to say how much I loved Stripes. And I was very sad when Stripes got blown up, and then very, very happy when the book ended with Stripes coming back as a little bitty kitty.
Oh my gosh. The summoning the little baby kitten at the end as the epilogue was just, so sweet.
I cried at that point because I was like, Stripes, you're back!
I was pretty upset when Stripes died, just because the first half of the book spends so much time building him up as, like, he's the flying carpet, but
he's Lainey's buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Stripes.
I think that to me is, like, a good example of this book. Like, it builds up a very good character that is just an absolute quirk, right? She brings to life a tiger rug because she needs to fly away on it to escape something in the first book. And this rug ends up developing a personality because she is so connected with all of the beings that she raises from the dead. And they are companions. And then he dies protecting her from Grandpa Rad in the trial, which...
The real reason why you didn't like the trials?
It's because it didn't hit... Okay, Lainey's not going to die. She's the main character, right? And so I was like, okay, so who is going to die? Because she's not going to beat Grandpa Rad here. It's only halfway through the book. I think it had, like... It did nothing, had zero stakes. So I was like, so what is going to be taken away to try to convince me that this was important? Is it Duantry, or is it Stripes? Or is it Cratchin? But we didn't really care about Cratchin yet, so he wasn't really on the chopping block.
I mean, I'm glad that it was Stripes and not Duantry, but...
Yeah.
Because Stripes was the one who could come back easier.
Yeah, I don't know, everything about that felt like it was only happening for a narrative purpose, and, like, I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but we've talked a lot about that.
So,
and coming back to Stripes and how he is the best boy.
Yeah. And so I, like, was upset on many levels when Stripes died. But then, of course, Lainey can bring him back because she's a necromancer.
I actually wasn't expecting it, though, because he is so blown up.
Oh, yeah, like, obliterated.
Yeah. And so I was not, and we don't see him until the epilogue. And so I was not expecting him to come back. I thought he was just another casualty of Grandpa Rad.
I also thought there might be real consequences, especially when, was it Stripes? No, there was something else that Lainey had raised and, like, borrowed its powers. And Grandpa Rad consumes it. Was it Stripes in that moment? And she, like, loses use of her left arm for the rest of that sequence.
It's not Stripes, but that might be, she has a bag of bones in this battle, and he does something with some of the bones.
And it says in the text, it said, for the first time, like, the essence she had lent it didn't return to her, it was just gone. And I was like, oh fuck. is this like a permanent injury that she now has to live with? And then we get the time skip. No, everything's fine. So I was like, oh, okay, nothing matters. Gotcha. Only a matter of time for Stripes, which I am happy about. I love Stripes, but his death and reanimation does kind of feed into what I did not care for about the trial.
I see where you're coming from, and I just don't care because I was so sad when Stripes died and so happy when Stripes came back.
He was so delightful. And this is like the second cat book that we've read in a row, and I was really enjoying Undead Cat Rug.
He wants to pounce on things, and he loves Lainey and also loves how Lainey is scared of heights and he thinks that he can protect her by doing big dives, and he was just so cute. He was so cute.
Precious. Very much like if a cat came back to life as a like undead superpower.
Yes.
Oh, and then the little kitten, but it was still. So I was thinking maybe she would bring something back, but then like it wouldn't quite be Stripes, right? Mm-hmm. But it was. It seems like he had his memories and everything, and that was very touching.
Yeah. It seemed like it was Stripes, and that made me happy because I don't want a Stripes substitute. I just want Stripes.
Well, that could have been emotionally challenging in another way, but
it could have been. If they had spent some time dealing with that kind of issue in the next book, I would have been okay with it eventually. But
that would have been a lot darker. And for all of the death and hardships that happen in this book, they don't really happen to Lainey and her close circle.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is still generally like an uplifting book. It's not grimdark or anything.
No, it's a very optimistic book.
Yeah.
Like the heroes are going to win. And it just goes a little farther with how low they can go before it comes back up, because Lainey does have ways of fixing things. I did love underwear too. Underwear stones.
We didn't see a lot of undies, but undies is also the greatest.
He is the wolf that Lainey brings back to life for her niece, Datura. And he's called Underwear because that's what he eats. He's undead. He doesn't need to eat to survive. He just eats them because he loves them. And my cats definitely like drag underwear around the house, and it's the worst, but also delightful.
The pugs don't do any of that. The closest that they get is Mr. Squeak likes to chew on my slippers. She's got lots of toys, but she likes the slippers.
Yeah, all of the companion characters are very sweet. Loved how much of Duantry we saw. We didn't talk about her much, but I really liked her relationship with Lainey. Like, they've clearly gotten so close over this adventure.
Yeah, it was a really great supportive relationship, and I loved all of it. It's a good book.
It's a really good book.
I just really liked this book.
All of the characters were incredible.
Yeah. Even the ones that we hate, they're still incredible. I love to hate them.
Yeah. And I mean, even when we did get to see more of Grandpa Rad's like history and his relationship with Sosha, I'm a sucker for romance, so I was like, yes, give me more.
I mean, I would read the toxic romance trilogy between Grandpa Rad and Sosha.
Hell yeah. We got a little bit, and I mean, he's gone now, so we might not actually get any more memories out of him, but
yeah, and that's partially why I had trouble figuring out like how this is going to be a trilogy.
That's true. He was sort of the big bad, huh?
Yeah, like this book feels like it wraps things up so nicely that I don't see where a third. I'm not arguing about having a third book. I would love to read a third book that's just Lainey exploring the world. I'm here for that. But it doesn't feel like that would be a trilogy. It feels like that would be, a tangential sequel.
The big unfinished business is Stone's Manor. I think she's going to reclaim Stone's Manor.
Okay.
It's her home. As much as she hates...
I could see that.
She didn't even hate her family. She's too nice for that. As much as her family was hateable, she did love her home.
I mean, I could see the final book being about getting back to her home country and getting her manor back. I still don't necessarily see how that would tie in as a trilogy because those events still feel separate enough. But I'm not complaining about how we get more of this series.
I mean, I think it's
Like-
connected. It was on, I say as if that's a for sure thing that what's going to happen. Watch it be absolutely nothing like that. But it could work, right? It's introduced in the first book. I mean, the first book deals quite a bit with trying to keep the manor, people trying to manipulate her so that she can keep like using it as
But
a
how it-
bargaining chip. And it's been on the back burner in this book, but her banishment was still definitely like a relevant plot point.
Her banishment still is. So I could see the banishment thread tying the 3 books together, but like, who's gonna be the villain?
I don't know.
What is the villain that relates back to book 1 now that Grandpa Rat is dead? I don't know. I look forward to finding out.
Yes, and then maybe it's something completely different, but that's what I think it's going to be. It's whatever. Someone pulled a little bit of a fast one to actually get them out of the house. I don't remember who. Was it this Hawkins' mother?
I don't remember at all.
Yeah, anyway. I can't wait to read it. Maybe I'll remember anything from this book when we do.
Maybe I will actually reread books 1 and 2 before book 3 comes out this time.
Ooh, optimistic.
I love this series. It would not be a hardship. I should have done it for this one. I just didn't have the time.
Yeah, that's the problem. And like that's the problem with series. I loved the first book.
I think that's the problem with doing a book podcast that requires we read a book a week.
Even then though, that's a big time commitment that you're asking of people. Not just read these 3 books, but read the first one 3 times.
Yeah.
Unless they're all together, but you don't want people to wait because you want them to buy the first 2. Like it's
I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yes.
Like that's one of the troubles with the publication industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you can't, it's hard to keep the readership for a trilogy or a series in general.
Mm-hmm. At least with a trilogy, we know it's going to end. No surprise 2 extra books, which I would probably be okay with, but
actually, like honestly, with Lainey in this world, I want those surprise 2 extra books. Like, give them to me.
But it would
trilogies
feel like a different. I think that it would be a different story and not just trying to stretch out the planned story. You know?
Yeah, I don't think that would happen with this, but there are some stories where I'm like, no, a trilogy's all I need. But with this world and with Cooney's writing and with like Lainey as a character, I want all of it.
Absolutely.
Give me all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fiction Fans.
Come disagree with us. We're on Blue Sky and Instagram at FictionFansPod. You can also email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com or leave a comment on YouTube.
If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and follow us wherever your podcasts live.
We also have a Patreon where you can support us and find exclusive episodes and a lot of other nonsense.
Thanks again for listening, and may your villains always be defeated.
Bye.